Hello and welcome to Week 2 of the 2015 European Challenger Series Spring Split, live from our studio in Berlin, Germany. I'm Richard Polscam, and with me on the caster desk is James Stress O'Leary.
I cannot wait. We're into the second week already, and we have some awesome games for you today.
Yeah, time has definitely flown by, but with the first week of Challenger complete, let's see where teams stand. So at the very top of the board right here, you can see Lowlandlions White are tied up with Origin and Reason Gaming, and then of course lagging behind is Gamers2, Mouse Sports, and Team Dignitas. And that Mouse Sports you may also know as N Faculty. They had a name change.
Yeah, quick swap up here between weeks 1 and 2, but those are the standings after week 1 only, so that takes into account both games played last week. Of course, you saw that last week we just had 2 zeros all across the board, so it puts us at a pretty straightforward setup here for our standings.
Yeah, you're either first or you're second.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, we're going to run through all of yesterday's results as well before each of today's games. So we'll update the standings as we go throughout the day.
But let's take a look at today's matches. So first up, we have Lowlandlions White versus Gamers2. And in the middle of the day, it will be Team Dignitas EU versus the newly christened Mouse. And then ending the day, it will be Reason Gaming up against Origin.
Yeah, and one of the matchups today that I'm really keeping my eye on is that Team Dignitas EU versus the new Mouse Sports roster. Both teams went 0-2 last week, and being so far into the season now, it feels like we're only 2 weeks in, but remember, that's going to be 40% of the games being done, so another 0-2 for either team here will put them into freefall and make it pretty difficult to get themselves into the playoff stages.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be super hard to recover from this stage stress, but to stay clued in on roster swaps, standings, and VODs from every single region around the world, head over to LLL-esports.com.
Yeah, while you're there, you can also watch Tuesday's Challenger Series games, including a crazy Origin and Reason Gaming match that we're going to show you some highlights of later, but make sure you check out the VODs page for the full game.
Yes, indeed. Definitely make sure to check out that game. But for our first game of today, it's the 2-0 Lowlandlions up against the 0-2 Gamers2.
Yeah, indeed. And coming into Challenger, who would have thought that that would be the storyline here? That's completely the reverse of everybody's expectations. I mean, you look at the former Nevo roster for Gamers2 coming into this. Everybody said, man, they're going to be so good, so strong up at the top side of the pack. They had to face Origin, and that's a tough opponent to actually, you know, do anything against. So that's a bit of a surprise that they didn't compete quite so well, but another surprise was Lowlandlions flew under everybody's radar. 2-0 against Team Dignitas EU. Nobody really expected that.
Well, on the topic of Lowlandlions, let's take a look at their roster. So in the top lane, it's Morsu. The jungler will be Kairi. Mid lane, it's Cosq, and Visility and Hybrid as the AD carry and support. And as you just mentioned, Stress, Lowlandlions did incredibly well last week. They were the clear underdogs heading into the split, but their 2-0 definitely turned some heads. And the team fighting was good, their objective control was solid. The next question is, can they continue to dictate the pace of their games?
And that's something last week they did really well, was dictating the pace. And you saw against the Team Dignitas Europe roster that Lowlandlions' objective control while dictating the pace was far too strong for them. I think that was the game that we saw 5 Dragons, 3 Barons out of Lowlandlions. And you know, tie into that, Lowlandlions have a couple of unorthodox picks. They've got some strength in their solo laners that perhaps other teams don't have. Speaking to European caster Strawberry, actually, about the Lowlandlions, he was saying the Fiora bans that we were seeing throughout the qualifiers in the last week are actually against mid lane. And that's something that we don't see from any other team. So we'll see whether that happens again here today.
Yeah, I mean, he was talking about how he's such a good Akali, but you can also add that Fiora to the mid lane roster as well for that guy. But their opponents, Gamers2, we take a look at their roster right now. Smitty J in the top lane, Gilius in the jungle, Ica in the mid lane, and G-Bus and Hiva kind of combine the two right there in the bot lane AD carry and support. And Gamers2 had a difficult first week facing Origin, as those two teams were heralded as the strongest moving into the split, and then the match itself would maybe even determine who would take the top spot heading into playoffs. But if Gamers2 were going to lose to anyone, it was going to be Origin, but moving forwards they need to see if they can put up consistent performances against the rest of the teams.
Yeah, and consistent performances is something this roster hasn't yet achieved. It's something that is well within the realms of possibility for them, but they've had a disappointing start to the season, to say the least.
Sure.
Obviously, again, we're mentioning they were up against the toughest opponents, but one thing that was kind of evident in those games was their presence from the jungle wasn't as high as you'd expect it to be for this Gamers2 lineup. Gilius wasn't exactly as strong as he would like to have been in that series, I think, to say the least. And we're expecting more from him this week.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair to say. But these two teams did go to head-to-head yesterday, so let's dive right into the action and see how that one panned out. So the game opens up with Lowlandlions trying to three-man push after a lane swap up.
Yeah, and this was a non-standard lane swap as well. So they did the lane swap and then teleported Gnar down to the bottom lane, didn't have the jungler there for the 4-man push. And this is a little bit risky. They had to push very quick, and then you have to kind of punish Gnar a little, Jax a little bit later to make sure he doesn't get any free farm.
It got a little weird, but you can see what they traded here. So Lowlandlions took the tower and the dragon in exchange for Gamers 2 taking a tower, and then you'll see in a minute how they managed to punish the bot lane coming in here because they go a little too deep. As you can see, Kyrie comes in from the top side. This looks like a great gank, lands the cocoon, lands the venomous bite, and doesn't quite pick up Smitty. He even holds on to his flash as well. And then from the top side, Gilius closes in for the kill. He becomes in for good measure as well. Kyrie doesn't get away from this one. That's one dead Spider Queen. And Morsu, he does manage to escape with his life, but he doesn't save his ally.
And Lowlandlions overextending in that bottom lane wasn't the last time they did it. They did it again in the jungle. You can see they didn't really have full vision of the jungle, and they're playing like they're ahead in this kind of situation. So Lowlandlions invade with only 2 people, give up a few more kills, and from here, Gamers 2 just keep getting kills.
Yeah, it's not the best of starts, honestly, for Lowlandlions coming into this one. CosQ does manage to get away here, but Hybrid, again, not so lucky. One member gets out, one has to die. But in the middle of the game, we saw Gamers 2 just engage right on top of Lowlandlions, and this was an absolute whitewash. Take a look at Jeebus right here. Just one rocket, picks up a kill, goes in for the second, another, and comes in for the triple kill as well. And on top of that, they pick up an inhibitor following that 5-0 fight.
Yeah, and at that point, Jeebus' stat line is 9-1-6 on a Jinx that's been ahead for the entire game. And from there, there's not really a lot that you can do against that. Jeebus had such a good game here, and it was pretty shortly after that the game would actually end. So Lowlandlions not actually maintaining their role of victories here.
Yeah, Lowlandlions just threw in the towel there, but Jeebus, you can see how well he did in that game. 18.0 KDA, had a decent amount of CS, but the amount of gold he had was absurd. 12.7k by the end of that game.
And one thing that you were talking to me about quite a lot was CosQ promised or spoke to you a little bit, and he was saying that regardless of how the game is going to go, I actually feel like I'm going to do really well. I'm going to win my mid lane, and he actually proved himself right on that. He, in a very difficult matchup, sometimes came out ahead from the laning phase. Wasn't really enough to carry the game for the rest of Lowlandlions, but he certainly lived up to his promise to you.
Yeah, he won that LeBlanc Ahri matchup, even playing as the Ahri. But we also saw Kyrie as well. Did not have such a good game. 0.8 KDA coming into that one. He was just shut down from minute 1.
Yeah, and we spoke to him a little bit earlier from that game, and honestly, he built Warrior Enchant on Elise.
So we're interested about this one.
Twitter kind of exploded after yesterday on, hey, why did you build Warrior on Elise? It's not good, quite frankly, to be honest. And he was saying that, I kind of didn't notice myself.
He was like, did I? So it was like, oh, okay, that explains quite a lot.
I mean, it tells you a lot about how the start of that game went. They maybe didn't settle themselves coming into the game. It was a tough game, especially with that lane swap that they thought went so well, and then they dived and it didn't go so well in the end. But at that point, I think that just signals quite a lot about Lowlandlions. Sure. At that point, they were maybe not quite 100% on what you're going back to buy.
Yeah, definitely not entirely focused, I think is fair to say on that one, Stress. But in this matchup, our player to watch is that mid laner CosQ. And last week, CosQ put the Rising Star Senkux in his place and delivered a powerful performance both on Ahri and Lissandra. The Dutch mid laner is very confident in his mid lane matchups and is just as confident against Iker as we saw yesterday. So this week, he claims that he can take advantage of Iker's passive playstyle.
Yeah, and CosQ doesn't exactly have the most impressive stat line from yesterday, but that was in a losing game. I'm looking forward to seeing if Lowlandlions can get ahead, what CosQ can do from being ahead, because that is really where we're going to hopefully see a player like CosQ shine.
Yeah, can he just do a little more? Can he go the extra mile is the real question. But, well, we're going to get the answers to a lot of those questions as we move into Champion Select, and if they put any focus on those big players as we saw yesterday, because there were some insane stat lines, and it's going to be down to the opposing team whether they can just start taking picks away.
Yeah, and a lot of the picks when we go into Lowlandlions games, a lot of the bans, I should say, are actually against Morsu up in that top lane. We saw yesterday in the game, we saw a lot of Aurelia Jax kind of bans. Jax was played yesterday, in fact, on the game Gamers 2
Yes.
side. So we saw a lot of priority over on that top lane role. Gonna have to see whether that happens again.
Yeah, and we will now move into Champion Select, so let's see what they do in terms of their bans coming out here. Lowlandlions are now on the blue side as we do swap up onto Wednesday, and they have, of course, the very first ban, so what will they do with it? I wonder if they aim anything at Jeebus. In fact, they do. Kalista as the first ban.
Yeah, the first ban straight out of there. Jeebus yesterday on Jinx. This time, Kalista not going to be available. We'll see what he ends up kind of defaulting to next, whether it'll be that Jinx again.
Yeah, maybe even see a Graves. We see a lot of Graves in Europe right now, and they will respond immediately with the Irelia, and then another fast ban of Kassadin from Lowlandlions, so taking away that flex pick, and then another ban in the form of Jax. These guys are just flying through the bans.
There are so many top lane bans right now, and as you said, there's a lot in this game matchup that is going to be between Smitty J and Morsu up in that top lane. We're not actually having a lot of the carry top laners left anymore. Some of the likes of Nara still available, a couple of other, you may be looking at Rumbles, stuff like that. Lissandra, another top lane champion, a flex pick, not available in this game.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. Kassadin and Lissandra both taken away there. As you mentioned, top is just losing more and more picks, and then the Fizz comes out. Again, if you haven't seen too much of Fizz now, people are saying you can build him as a bruiser, throw him in the top lane, and wow, first pick Braum from Lowlandlions.
Oh, okay. I mean, they hovered it, and I was like, this isn't something you
sure
pick here.
that?
Braum this early on, there have been no support bans. And typically Braum isn't the highest tier support either. Yeah. This is what you'd expect from a support lock with a Janna. Right. In Korea a lot of the time, and you know, a lot of regions that high prioritize Janna. So this is super surprising that Lowlandlions are saying, hey, we want our top our first pick to be Braum. Now what this will do is allow a couple more of the more overpowered, perhaps, champions, maybe not over, but stronger champions would be the right way of saying it, to filter through. And Lowlandlions are kind of seeing what Gamers 2 are going to pick up here and see what filters down.
Yeah, we are now on patch 5.3 heading into this week, so Nidalee has had that small change, of course, with the changing forms resetting the cooldowns, so they're still prioritizing that. Gamers 2 come in with this. Of course, we saw Darren Prox pick that one up even in patch 5.3 in a European LCS, and still did crazy well. He even picked up the MVP. So we see that taken away here, and also the Annie for the bot lane. So yeah, both supports brought in very early into the draft.
And those are both engaged supports, so if that's anything to go by, there's going to be a lot of engaging in this game. It's not going to be a passive one from now. But another player that has been playing a lot of that Nidalee is Jankos, has been playing it from Rockout. I know they've highly prioritized that during their LCS games. So, you know, a lot of players are saying that it's not as strong as it was, but is still viable. It's still around almost that top tier status. It depends on the player, what their play style is. So I guess we haven't seen it too much out of Gamers 2, but if Gilius wants a champion that he could carry on, Nidalee could certainly be the one.
Well, that could be the one indeed, Stress. And Lowlandlions, they are taking their time with their next couple of picks. Sitting on the Rengar, have locked in the Sivir, so that reveals a little bit more about their composition. You've got the On Hunt now with the Rengar, and you've got this Knife Cat running at you in 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, again, engage, mobility. Braum is going to be able to get into position for his ultimate pretty easily here. And Gamers 2 have got to find some sense perhaps of disengage here. Although, I mean, looking at their composition already with the Annie, it doesn't exactly scream to us that they want to disengage all that much.
Like,
so,
you jump on us, we'll throw Tibbers on you and see how that one goes. But
exactly. But at this point, I mean, there's a lot of options still available. That top lane has not been focused yet at all, and we're 5 picks in that have been locked in. Nara is still available, Maokai, Rumble, so much still there for both of these teams, and with this much presence in the bans phase for top lane, interesting to see them fall this far.
So interesting. I actually locks in the Zed here, which we'll assume will go into the mid lane along with the Corki, but we'll touch on that in a second, which will no doubt go to Jeebus. But Kozki was talking about how Aiku is a passive mid laner, and he's picked an Assassin on day 1 and Assassin on day 2. He's trying to prove Kozki a little wrong here. Yeah,
and there are a lot of mid lane picks open as well still here. I mean, you've got picks the likes of LeBlanc, Ahri, you know, each one has a fairly different matchup against Zed. Zed is, I mean, Zed's a pretty, I don't want to say safe, because he's not safe in the mid lane at all. It's all down to the player. But Zed isn't exactly a mid laner that I'd like to first pick into a lot of matchups. It's so dependent on the exact matchup that you get and on what's banned out here. But with a Nidalee jungle and an Annie support, they're desperate for some kind of AD, and this game has just been blown wide open.
I don't even know what to say anymore, Stress. Look at this. So they block in the Ahri up against the Zed matchup. We'll touch on that one in a second, because Wukong brought in from Lowlandlions. They have the Rengar, And we were talking about top lanes and how many picks have been banned away from the top lane. We've already got 5 there. Has that just opened up the field to allow a Wukong into the game?
Normally I'd say no, because Na's available, but
Yeah.
it's been locked in. So at this point, again, there's engage potential out on Lowlandlions. Not as if Na doesn't offer you that, but we talked about Morsu and Lowlandlions having a very dynamic picks and bans phase. This certainly is dynamic. We haven't seen Wukong since he was a jungler right the way back. So at this point, Lowlandlions with a top lane Wukong, man.
That brings me back to like Pantheon Wukong era. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and Gamers 2 have a couple of options. They could opt for more magic damage if they went for this Rumble. Maokai would also, add to their team fight, but at this point, there is so much damage on Gamers 2 right now.
Okay, so there's the Rumble. We mentioned him before as a potential top lane pick, along with the Nod. They actually bring that up against the Wukong, and we'll be having that matchup. And of course, we also skimmed over the Corki pick up there, but now we see the full compositions in, and that is a lot of mobility, and you are going to dive on someone, and Lowlandlions is going to kill someone.
Yeah, one thing we didn't quite pick up too much on was the Ahri pick into Zed. It was a skill matchup before the adjustments to Ahri. At this point, I have a fair amount of concern for Iker if he is fairly passive to play Zed into Ahri, but that matchup we're going to have to keep an eye on. It's going to be to do with who roams and who can shove the other in first. Normally Zed's pretty good at shoving in against other champions, but as for the team compositions, as we said, engage completely in the favor of Lowlandlions when it comes to when they start the fight, that's great, but then you look over on the side of Gamers 2, they've got the Equalizer, they've got a lot of siege potential as well when you take a Nidalee and a Corki into account. There is just so much in this game that I cannot wait to get talking about.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely insane. I really want to see how this Wukong turns out. And you heard me say, oh, hello, at the end of that. I just wanted to see if they actually swapped that into the right position.
Right,
because they moved the Wukong into top lane. And we were talking a little about the Wukong jungle, at least I was anyway, but they swapped that at the last second. So.
Yeah, I guess maybe I was a little unclear on that. as soon as the Rengar's there, I was expecting
just to
it
clear
to go
up any
top lane.
confusion. So.
But it is Lowlandlions, so they could play anything mid.
Hell yeah, but we are now getting into our very first game of week 2. Lowlandlions busting out the Wukong this time on the blue side, up against Gamers 2, now swapping up to the red corner, and they have gone for a little more of a meta composition that at least we can understand the champion picks that they've come out with. But
well, I mean, you say that, but Lowlandlions, let's take a look at it, because I mean, Wukong just isn't exactly a standard laner for top lane, but when you look at what his role is going to be, it's not too dissimilar from other champions that we've seen. It's not too dissimilar from a Na with regards to engage and a lot of that AoE potential. So that's what they're going to be relying on. And of course, with the Sivir ultimate, they should be able to get Wukong in there more easily than if he was on his own. And speaking of getting in places fairly easily, Lowlandlions pick up the first ward of the game.
Yeah, they do. And they move on to the second. They do see it placed down just before it stuffs up, but they don't manage to take it out. That's a spear right to the face onto Cod's Q, who'll be taking a bit of damage there. At least Gamers 2 know exactly where they are. Icon now sitting in the bot side. And of course, he does have that warded, so he has a little bit of early warning before they move in. You can see the bot lane of Jeebus and Heaver have pushed up, put those aggressive wards down for their own information.
Yeah, they have a ward that's almost standard. Normally you'll see this one by the turret the other side just to spot out a lane swap, and honestly I wouldn't be too surprised to potentially see a lane swap out of Gamers 2 here, because Wukong is a melee champion. He doesn't exactly have all that much in the way of farming, especially when he's getting zoned out by a champion like Annie. So if they can get the lanes to sit well, it may very well go in their favor. And you can see that they have spotted the bot lane here. I wonder whether Gamers 2 are going to recall. Now, Rumble isn't the top champion in a 2v1. In fact, he's not that great himself, but I would hazard a guess that Wukong is probably a little bit worse.
We'll see. I mean, back in the day, when we did see some Wukong top lane, people would talk about the incredible all-in of a Wukong level 2. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But bot lane hybrid is already whacking away at Heaver. He's taking a fair bunch of damage. But yeah, it kind of like spikes at level 2 and then plummets. And then that's your laning phase.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on level 2 top lane. But it is standard lane matchups that we have got so far. And You know, this bottom lane, Corki Annie, that is just burst central right there. And Sivir can only spell shield one thing off. And remember, this Braum was the first pick into the lane, so this tanky frontline support is going to have to absorb a lot of damage, and they've already traded a lot back onto Hiva, as you can see.
Yeah, he is taking a bunch of damage, but Visility has been the one who's been taking on the side of Lowlandlions. He's the AD carry. He wants to be the one getting near to those minions. Jeebus is already aggressing up, does manage to Phosphorus Bomb or Spell Shield the Phosphorus Bomb, and Hiva doesn't get his own damage onto Visility as well. Hybrid was just doing a good job of sitting in front of him. So damage exchanged, but they're getting fairly low down there.
Yeah, and they didn't land the Q from Braum there, and that's a significant part of the ability to trade in that bottom lane. And honestly, they're going to need to rely on that a little bit more if they're going to want to take this.
Yeah, indeed. And now we take a look at the mid lane as well. Iker up against Cosq, and look at the farm differential. Yes, there's a minion wave there, but it's 17-10 so far in that Zedari matchup.
Yeah, but bottom lane, here comes Gilius.
Oh, they're trying for this gank, and it's an easy kill onto that Sivir. The spell shield did not do much against the auto attacks from Jeebus, and that was just as clean as it gets.
Yeah, Lowlandlions held onto all of their summoners, though. And, you know, although that is a completely successful gank out by Gilius, great start onto Nidalee. That's what you really need to do. Get into lanes early on, utilize the ability that you have and the strength that you have early to get yourself through what can potentially be a bit of a dip in the mid game. So Gilius doing a great start. We already talked about how much he has to do this week.
Yeah, and he places down that aggressive ward, so he's going to even try and push into the jungle of Kairi. Now throws out that spear onto Cosq. He's seeing it as turret, so pouncing into it would not be the smartest of decisions. We've seen Nidalee's pounce into towers before in the Challenger Series. Not worked out so well for some other people.
No, it hasn't. But what is working out pretty well is this Zed into Ahri matchup here for Iker. And we said Iker's normally a passive play. He's controlling this early game as you'd kind of expect here, being able to shove in a lot, and we'll have to see if Iker can get a lot of damage and force Cosq back before 6, but something's going to help with that with Hiva roaming up.
Oh, what are you doing here? Cosq is a little confused as he just wanders into the Dark Child and then has to head back to his turret. He'll be burning his flash very early into this game.
And these are great little trades here for Gamers 2. Getting summoners, getting a kill down in the bottom lane, this is exactly what Gamers 2 need to do with this composition, because if they don't get significantly ahead, they're going to end up falling behind. But top lane...
Oh, Gilius, the patient hunter, he was ready in the bush, and they put all that damage onto the clone from Morsu. That was, they must have known he was standing still for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, Gilius, a lot of that was from swipe during that damage, but look at Morsu. Every time he goes in, yes, he is getting the farm, but he's taking a lot of damage, and he's had to pick up a flask and potions to begin this game. So, again, I'm desperately keeping an eye on this top lane to see exactly how it's going to go, because, oh, mid!
Oh, Iker right underneath Cosq, but he gets charmed. He'll be taking one more tower shot. He'll die for that. Turns into a 1-for-1. That was extremely ballsy, but good charm in the right place.
Good charm, great charm, keeps himself at least in this matchup here with the 1-for-1 trade. Iker used everything, was not level 6, and he'd already had an advantage, so, you know, that's a bit of an obscure timing to go in. Normally you'll just see a Zed wait until 6, because he gets all that extra damage and just pretty much gets a near free kill. Exactly, he gets the way out as well, so Iker knew he could get the kill. I don't think he was expecting to die for it.
Yeah, it's like, I have the first part of my plan, which is kill him. I don't have the end of my plan. And that's what we saw right there.
Stage 3.
Stage 3 indeed. Jeebus and Hiva have returned to lane in the bot lane, and they not only have the extra kill, but a large CS differential. He went back to base and now has the making of his phase. So is on his way to his Trinity Force and getting that mid-game spike. But Hybrid now putting, again, more auto-attacks onto Hiva. I'm not really sure how he keeps getting in melee range, but Visility is on the backside just waiting to try and follow up with the damage. Gets one auto-attack, just needs a couple more. Broomine Blade comes in, and then the 2 versus 2, they pick up a kill. Jeebus responds with some damage, but Kyra's thinking about a gank, and he's still there. Top lane, though, they do have the Cyclone coming out, harass more than anything. It's funny when you kind of use that in that terminology, but Jeebus now heading up as well, just walks back into 1 versus 2. Hybrid again somehow manages to connect the Q. Visility now taking some damage from Gilius from the side. He'll be jumping onto him. There's the pounce, but Kyrie is there for the counter gank as well. He'll be going onto the turret. What is it with Gamers 2 and not having an escape route?
Gamers 2 just all in without any kind of out. You can see the strength of this 2v2 down in the bottom lane here for Sivir and Braum. As soon as they're not getting bursted down by this Corki Annie, they can survive through a lot, land the Q from Braum, get the stun and so much damage from Sivir, but it's heavily reliant on them actually getting all of the skill shots down in the bottom lane. And, I mean, we saw top lane as well. Morsu just ulting in the face of Smitty J. We see Smitty J ulting the wave down. And
it's a show of force.
Yeah, show of force with the ultimates. Both top lane is just teleporting back up there as well. Leaves us in a position where neither team is going to have that teleport available for any kind of dragon control.
Yeah, and now we can take a little step back right now. 7 minutes 30 into this game, we've already had 6 kills. Gaius now able to just walk through his jungle a little more cleanly. Has picked up the Trailblazer here, as has his counterpart of Kyrie.
Yeah, they have. And other pickups here from the items. I mean, Gilius dying there actually does a fair amount of damage to the ability of Gamers 2 to fight Lowlandlions in the bottom lane. BF Sword picked up onto Sivir is a massive spike in power here because Jeebus only really has a Sheen. And yes, that's going to give him a little bit of that upfront burst damage, even more so. But the trades that Visility and Hybrid are going to have, the sustain that's going to come from the Relic Shield as well, allows them to completely fight this. And ooh, I thought Gamers 2 maybe wanted to fight Morsu there, but his ult was still not available. May have been in a lot of trouble. Does clone himself out of there.
Yeah, he was good to go, and I'm just excited to see how he utilizes the clone, because we just have not seen that mechanic in such a long time. See if we can get any sick jukes off, but he still has his flash and still has his ultimate just in case he needs it a little bit later. He is only slightly behind in that lane up against Smitty J, in fact, so he's actually not doing too bad, and of course it's all about that team fight for Wukong when he gets into the game, so this is going to get even more explosive than it already is. I wanted to say it's going to get explosive, but I think we're already hit that stage.
We are a little bit past the beginning of that already, but you know, CosQ is struggling a little bit in this game, and a little bit is a little bit of an understatement, because 47 CS to 76, Iker is completely dominating him in this game, and honestly, CosQ said he felt confident that Iker was going to play passive. Iker has been anything but passive here in this game. Still has his ultimate available, so may you see him go in again, but both junglers are around this mid lane area. They understand the importance of both of these assassin mid laners getting ahead and staying ahead, so it really could all be on that next kill in the mid lane.
Yeah, Iker has done such a good job in this mid lane, even with the over-aggression at the start, still kept up that large CS advantage, as you mentioned. Bot lane also ahead, so every single lane from Gamers 2 is ahead. They picked up those small advantages earlier, and yes, Lowlandlions managed to respond with their own kills, but they're still lagging behind in this game. 10 minutes into this one now, and they have started to go back and pick up some of those trinkets. In fact, the blue trinket already picked up by Visility. So he's going to be able to spot some of those ganks coming in as we head through into the mid-game. Kyrie looking for a gank into the bot lane as well. And pings do go down into the bot lane, so they may even know he's there. He may have been tagged by the visual, maybe not. They go straight onto Visility. Kyrie's there for the counter gank. He was using his ultimate fill of the hunt, but not enough to save his ally. Gilius gets pinned down by the bowler, and Jeebus turns around. There's the Tibbers, has another stun to offer, and throw down onto the bot lane of Lowlandlions, and that's another 2 for 0. What do they do with it? They move on to Dragon.
Great flash engage out of Heaver, and again, it's all about the burst from Gamers 2. And, you know, pair that with some spears coming out. Iker ults into Kyrie.
Coming in from the side, he does land the Razor Shurikens. Pop goes the Rengar. He goes down, and that's not yet another kill for Gamers 2, and he'll just come in to assist for the Dragon as well.
Kyrie really wanted to get that extra health at the end. Did get it, but it wasn't enough. And Lowlandlions will go pop 6 kills to 3 currently in this game. Oh, CosQ. That's a long-range spear, means that there's no follow-up here from Gilius. But this is suiting Gilius' playstyle a lot better than we saw in you know, last week's games against Origin. We talked about how Gilius really wasn't having an effect, but Gilius has been bottom lane, he's been mid lane, he's just getting into the different lanes, just making sure that his laners are getting their advantage, and Gamers 2 are in a great position because of it.
Yeah, top lane, once again, that Wukong just trying to farm away up against Smitty J, but so much damage as he just overheats and puts even more pain onto that Wukong. And still have to see if this pays off, because this is the main different pick of this game, and Lowlandlions kind of trick card.
Equalizer.
Underneath the tower, has the Flame Spitter, will be taking down that Wukong in the top lane, and he just walks away with it as well. So Smitty J so far ahead in that lane. That lane bully is just so difficult to deal with.
It is. It's so difficult. And you can see that Morsu is really struggling here when it comes to actually taking the fights. He's not too bad when it comes to farming, because he's just going in, getting farm and backing out. The clone's doing a fair amount of work there. But at this point, you know, Smitty J gets himself a kill, gets himself a needlessly large rod. He's almost at getting Azonia's hourglass there as well. And that's just a big power spike here for Smitty J. As soon as he can get into fights here, yes, he's not running the magic penetration that we'd normally see out of Rumbles, but this is something that he desperately needs against his lane matchup, and it's going to add to the power of when he gets to fights by quite a significant amount.
Yeah, of course, magic penetration is the way to go typically as Rumble, but he's just adapting to the situation in this one. So that, looking towards the Ravenous Hydra, in fact, from Morsu, has picked up the Tiamat and the makings of it so far. Interesting build route from him, so into this game. Now looking at the jungle, Gilius actually opts towards the Magus enchant over the Juggernaut. So he's gone for that route this time, and I assume that's intentional. Kyrie heads into the top lane, looking for this gang to come in. Morsu just has a flash, and also the Cyclone as well. He'll be able to pop that in a second. Smitty J is overheated. He doesn't have any chance to answer back onto that gank, and they will get that kill for a 1-for-1 in total in the top lane.
Finally, Lowlandlions get that ult working, but bottom lane...
Tibbers comes down, but the stun was blocked out by the spell shield. Gilius looking to get on top of them, but there's no hunted, so he can't get in range with his pounce. And Hybrid just looks to take point and push them away as they maybe look to go a little bit deeper.
Hybrid even saved his ultimate there, so any kind of attempt again from Gamers 2 can be deterred a little bit, but it's a red buff steal that they want. Gilius is actually out on his own here, and looks like Lowlandlions are going to be able to protect.
Oh, Hybrid saying, get off my lawn, Gilius, and
Or
Gilius
not.
says, no, I'll be taking this red buff, and maybe I'll just kill you as well. Hiva coming in from behind. Vitality blocks yet another spell with his spell shield. Kyrie came in from the top lane and is able to repel that, but Gilius got what he came for. He took the red buff. And Lowlandlions White actually have the advantage in the low esports vote. People are thinking that they will run away with this game up against Gamers 2.
I think a lot of people might be surprised about that, with Lowlandlions still certainly on a lot of people's, or under a lot of people's radar. But something important there to note is the red buff trade is actually equal, because Morsu just went and stole red himself from the red side jungle. So Morsu actually uses his teleport to save this tower from going down. And Gamers 2 kind of just have a lot of that pressure they just established neutralized.
Yeah, so that first tower of the game has gone down. Gamers 2 are still ahead in this game. I wouldn't call it commanding just yet, but Gilius will be also taking this blue buff, and of course he will be getting it as well. Ica doesn't have too much need for it. He lets his jungler take that one away. He'll be quite happy. And now Kozq moves up to the top lane. Maybe even looking to try and take out Smitty. Something could open up here in a minute, Stress. He's sitting in from behind. He does have the Equalizer, but Spirit Rush is available from Kozq. He takes a lot of damage from the Flame Spitter to start up, and Smitty J will overheat. So Kozq just have to burn his ultimate, and Smitty J only did that from one Flame Spitter.
Yeah, that's so much damage right now, but honestly, Gamers 2 have a lot of damage just in general. They've reached some item breakpoints that are super important. You can see the Trinity Force on Corgi with the Sorcerer's Boots. Over on Zed as well, he's now got Brutalizer and a Bilgewater Cutlass, so that is a big amount of damage that it's going to be difficult for anyone on Lowlandlions to be able to take. And again, that Zhonya's Hourglass is pretty much just about to be completed as soon as Rumble backs next. Ica wants to go in.
Gamers 2 trying to take control right now. Morsu takes some damage. He will be hit up by the death mark from Ica. It's not enough damage. Kyrie did choose to ult there. We'll be throwing out the bowler to lock them down with the snare. But again, they just push forwards, and now 3 towers in favor of Gamers 2. They're starting to ramp up.
Yeah, and they knew Visility was down in the bottom lane, so they were comfortable to leave Jeebus pushing top as long as they didn't engage. And you could see that Zed goes in, forces people off the tower, but Jeebus
goes in for the 1v1. He knows he doesn't have ultimate, but he does have the flash. He has to
Rocket
burn it. He may
barrage.
still be dead. He doesn't need to. The minion wave was right there. He could supply the auto attacks. The 1v1, that should not happen. Ica now goes into the bot lane, takes out the AD carry as well. This is going from bad to worse. Kills all over the map globally.
Man, this is all Gamers 2 right now. They are completely ramping this game. Morsu? Okay. Morsu, you're in enemy lines there.
Wrong side.
I mean, the decoy only lasts for so long and can't really do that.
Yeah.
So,
and
I mean,
reveals stealth.
they get a turret in the top lane.
Sneaky.
Morsu's trying to just sneak around here in the back of the base. It's...
Sure,
I guess it was a good attempt. He knew that Ica had used his ult and used his ignite, so the likelihood of Ica actually killing him was on the lower side of things, but you have to get there first.
Also true, but Ica had a million and one ways to just walk away.
But he, from what seems like a very strange play, Morsu gets a turret.
He does.
And that is actually a pretty significant thing. It's the first turret here in favor of Lowlandlions, so while he wanted the kill, the turret is far better for his team. Gives them that extra gold. And Dragon has spawned, so this actually now creates a little bit more pressure onto Gamers 2 to take this Dragon. They have to secure the area with wards first, and neither team has really had too much vision control around this Dragon. I mean, there is a ward in the back of this Dragon pit that Gamers 2 has not cleared. It is just at the top edge of the scoreboard. You can see the help. So, I mean, Gamers 2 know they can do this because they can see the mid lane. They've had enough vision control of the jungle, so this time they're safe. But, you know, by no means have Gamers 2 completely controlled the vision around that area.
Yeah, in fact, Gamers 2's vision game has just been kind of on point in this game. The amount of pink wards going down right now from Lowlandlions, all defensive, and in fact, they're being cleared out as well. Gamers 2 putting all of these green wards down now into the opposing jungle. They're just doing it by the book, taking the dragon, putting down the vision. They have an absolute stranglehold over this game right now, and it's really just kind of flipped a switch over the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, their vision is pretty much deep into the Lowlandlions jungle. You can see they're even establishing more pink wards here deeper in, and they're going to be able to get turrets from this because now they can track the entirety of Lowlandlions coming. They know they've got to force Lowlandlions to go through their own base or through the safer, even deeper parts of their own jungle, and that means the travel time between towers to defend is so much greater. So Gamers 2 are just going to choke out Lowlandlions for a little bit here and just take the outer towers down, and that is almost where we find ourselves.
Well, Kari tries to get a pick in the mid lane and does a whole lot of not very much. Smitty J will shrug that one off and be quite happy with it. And even them taking the direct route, Lowlandlions were still slow to stop them at that bottom tower. So even if they took the safe route, they would have been even nowhere close. And Gamers 2 will just do the same thing in mid lane, just go from lane to lane to lane, picking even more up. And Lowlandlions, they've got to do something to stop the bleeding, but they're just not strong enough to take them on in a head-on collision.
Yeah, and their team composition wants to fight. That's the problem here, is they want to fight, but they're behind. So without Lowlandlions getting a couple of picks here, there's really nothing that they can do against Gamers 2 to engage because of how strong Gamers 2 are right now, that the counter-engage will completely wipe them off the map. It's a tough spot for Lowlandlions to be in, but they know that Jeebus is not really with the team right now, and Lowlandlions may be looking to fight.
They do land the Winter's Bite coming in. Morsu looking to Gib. Heaver, he gets him down, but that's a lot on one person. Ica now hits onto the back line along with Smitty J. He's already used his equalizer. They take down the bottom lane duo. Jeebus will come in with a response as well onto Morsu. A 3-for-1 in total. And the rest of the Roaches scatter. That is a risky way to go, CosQ.
Oh.
You have to walk around.
He does. He's got to take the long way around. No chance of defending this turret. And even though Jeebus was a tiny little bit later into that fight than Gamers 2 would have liked, they actually only traded Heaver away from that. And Heaver didn't actually use anything in that fight, is another key thing. Flash and Tibbers still available for the next engage, so we'll be able to see that in the next one. But this was the fight that just happened. Heaver instantly gets taken out of the map. The equalizer was already gone, but Gilius manages to get himself out. Jeebus just takes down Braum, and look at the damage. This is a Corki that is so far ahead in this game. He's 6-0-1, pretty much on track to replicate yesterday's performance where he went legendary on Jinx.
Yeah, and wow, that was a lot of fun going to him as well. He's in a very good shape, and after that team fight as well, Lowlandlions, they burnt so much on just trying to kill one person, and that person was Heaver. And yeah, if you're bursting all of those ultimates on Jeebus, it might be worth it. You're taking 6 kills off the board, but Heaver will be quite happy to hang on to his Flash Tibbers. And CosQ, oh, there is the Flash. Well, he just needs the Tibbers itself. Smitty J follows up with the damage. CosQ Spirit rushes sideways into Spearcat. She kills him.
The problem is Lowlandlions are, again, very similarly to yesterday, pushing out into areas where they don't have vision, and you're handing the kill to Gamers 2. You're saying, hey, I'm an Ahri, I've still got Flash and my ult available, but I'm going to walk up right next to you, so that by the time I Tibbers you, it's already too late.
Yeah.
We can already just take you away, and Gamers 2 will, every time that happens, go, okay, let's take an objective. Or they should do, but they're kind of angling towards Baron, but I think they're obviously waiting for Jeebus, and they're buying time for Ica to split push down in the bottom lane, because really, there's nobody that can duel Ica. So this is just a patient play here from Gamers 2 to say we need to get everybody in the right position, and then we do the objective.
Yeah. Who do we sacrifice to Ica?
And here we go.
Yeah, because now there's 2 people in the bot lane trying to defend. Only now does Cairo rejoin the rest of his team in the mid lane, but they have such a hold over the vision in the top side of that blue team jungle. This is the safest Baron there ever was, and now they only maybe think, maybe they could be on Baron. They ping it, and it's just too late.
Yeah, that's... oh, Charm is missed. Ica now can go in.
Oh, that was just the signal to go. Lands the death marker as well. Lands one more auto attack, and he's out of there.
And it was all on the Charm.
All on the Charm.
I mean, Ica is in a situation where there's a lot of people after him here. Teleport
Come on,
coming
Ica.
through.
What can you do? Oh, he nukes down Hybrid. He takes one more with him. That's a 2-for-1 so far. Smitty J joins the fight. He goes 1-on-3. There's the Zhonya's. How much can he do turning this one around? Kari sticks around, tries to take down the minions. Doesn't have enough damage with the flame
team's
spitter.
coming, though.
The rest of the team, they all stuck around. Now Heaver comes in from the backside. Flash, Tibbers goes down, and Jeebus is there to clean up. He offers the damage. He picks up 1, 2, make that 3, and that is the clean ace. Well, 5 for 2, clean as it gets.
It's not
For Gamers 2.
It is Gamers 2. They a little overconfident on that ace. I mean, taking it all the way back, CosQ, if you're in a situation where you need the charm to hit in order for you to completely win that fight without completely losing it, maybe you shouldn't be in that situation because Ica is incredibly strong, is all I'm saying. Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're trying to get that kill, that's maybe a kill that's a little bit risky. But Jeebus knows that he's not in too much danger, I would suspect. But yeah, it's a little bit of overconfidence from Gamers 2. Going in 1 by 1, yes, they trade the kills, yes, they get an inhib, yes, they get full control of the game, but that's one of the things they have to be careful of when it comes to playing teams that aren't quite so far behind in this game. Gamers 2, since the moment they stepped onto the Rift here, have been in full control. And Lowlandlions really haven't felt like they're competing. CosQ always having to ult himself away, and it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, I've lost count of the amount of times that the ult has had to be a defensive one from CosQ. And that's yet another Dragon going down for Gamers 2. I think that makes it 3 now for that team. No, make that 2. I'm good at maths. And they move into the mid lane, and they'll just be taking yet another inhibitor. They'll be trying to siege just one in, but they also have those Baroned up minions to tank up the tower. And this is kind of last chance saloon for Lowlandlions if they want to do anything more. So from the side, lands the ultimate onto 2, tries to get forward as well, but he dies before he can do anything. Ica comes in, lands onto Hybrid. Will he pop? Not quite enough damage, doesn't have the shuriken over the top of his head. And that is a 1-0. Should be enough to pry themselves into the base of Lowlandlions.
And that should have been the kind of engage, perhaps, that Morsu's looking for. Oh, Jeebus is going in.
Oh, it's go time. There's the big one right onto Facility. He bites the dust. Gideus comes in, manages to snipe off CosQ as well. Hybrid, the 2-man army along with his Rengar. I don't think they're going to pull off a miracle here. And Gamers 2 will just solidify their victory. They'll take all 3 inhibitors.
Bot lane's pushing in. There's nobody to wave clear here, so it's tutorial style out of Gamers 2, taking down all 3 inhibs. But I mean, Gamers 2 have just reached their power spikes and just never let go. And Lowlandlions never had an opportunity to get their comp working. They wanted to team fight, they were behind and couldn't team fight, and Gamers 2 exploit that.
Yeah, we never saw the full extent of what they wanted to do, that being from Lowlandlions, because they were just punished from minute 1, and it was just hitting those power spikes, hitting that Trinity Force, and running away with the game. Impressive showing by Gamers 2.
Yeah, and while I don't think the game itself was reliant on those picks. The Wukong pick is something that we don't see too much, and I wouldn't write that pick off just from this game, because Gileas had an impact in the early game that completely dictated the pace. And it didn't matter whether you had a Wukong or a Nara or whatever top lane.
You can substitute anything in there.
At that point, Gileas got the bot lane ahead, Jeebus was getting a lot of damage, you had the trades in mid lane, trades in bottom lane, and it could have gone okay for Lowlandlions when they got the BF sword on Sivir, but Gileas comes back down to the bottom lane, makes sure that they punish them, and Gamers 2 looking a lot sharper this week.
Yeah, indeed. And we even said this at the very start. They need to put up these consistent performances against the rest of the teams. Of course, Origin was going to be their big target to try and take down in week 1, but that's a tall task. And now they're performing up against these other teams. And that makes them 2-2 right now. That means Lowlandlions are also 2-2. So they're actually paired up in the leaderboard, and we'll see how they progress through the weeks. But yeah, if Gamers 2 keep performing like that, clearly they haven't been unmotivated by or demotivated from the first week stress. But we're going to take a quick time out, but when we get back, Team Dignitas EU and Mouse take to the Rift once more. We'll see you in a sec.